Maybe I'll invite one of the pastors to open us with prayer. Mic 4. 4. 4.
You're on. Don't worry. Okay, invite you all to bring yourselves to be present here. We're going to start. Let us pray. God, as we gather as community to chart the way forward for the next coming year, we give thanks. We give thanks for all that we've been provided for. We give thanks for all the plans that we have set in place, the things that we wanted to achieve, the things that we have managed to do, and some of the things that we did not manage to do. We give thanks for your presence and your guiding spirit inviting us into larger love, bigger hope, and big imagination beyond who we thought that we could be as a church. So as we look into the coming year, be with us. Whisper in our hearts who we are invited to become, and not to limit ourselves to a small imagination, but to be awed with wonder by how you will make the 5 loaves and 2 fishes that we bring to feed the multitudes. So we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Mia. So, probably most of y'all who are here, I just wondering, everybody understand why we call it ACM instead of AGM? Okay, so I realize you need to put that slide always. So ACM, which stands for Annual Constituents Meeting. So based on ACRA, in terms of the ACRA format, in ACRA itself, there's only 7 members, which is the board member, while the rest of the members of the church are known as constituents. Okay, so how we work here is the constituents will actually vote, okay, for the plan that we're going to plan for 2026. With that, the board will execute it, and during our June or July, when we are finalizing the AGM, where the board member, which is the member of the church, will actually vote according to the constituents' idea and voting based on today. So today, for the FCC 2025 ACM, we're going to go through the following agenda. Okay, so we're going to cover, for a more welcome everyone who's here. Then we're going to cover on the FCC Board of Renewal. This one will be covered by Kenneth, which is one of the board members. FCC Council status. Then after that, we have David, which will cover the Pulse Survey insights. Then after that, for 2025, we have the pastors who will explain a bit more on their 2025 in terms of review and what are the 2026 plan. So first we have first or... Oh, so we have Pastor Miak first. Either Pastor Miak or Pastor Pauline, so each of them will cover each part of it. Then after that, I'll come in again to talk about the 2025 budget, where we are, and also what is our 2026 plan. Then after that, we'll provide the QR code link for everyone here to vote. Then after that, we'll do the closing. Okay, so without further ado, I'll pass the mic to Kenneth, who will bring us through the structure of FCC first, then what is the renewal about.
Thanks, Sean. Next slide. I think can we go through the previous slide first, the one with pictures? Yeah. Okay, so for the FCC structure, right, we have the board, we have the council, and of course we have the church staff. So church staff is Pastor Miak and Pastor Pauline. Our council members are formed by Daryl, Wendy, and Jeffrey. And our board members, our chairperson is Gary, followed by Jimmy, David, Sean, myself, Sam, and Lexi. Oh, sorry, Daniel. Next time put your picture there. Okay, next slide. Do I click something? Okay. Okay, so what does the board do? The board is actually elected by the members for every cycle is 2 years, so we have to re-elect for every 2 years if we want to continue. And we are responsible for any of the bylaws that we set, we organize and then we operate them. So these changes will be approved at the AGM. We are responsible for any legal organization and registration at FCC, managing the church property, risk compliance, corporate management, responsible for financial management, and we must report to all the members, constituents, and relevant authorities. Next, the next few slides and the remaining of our time today will be talking about a bit of the plans from 2024 and what we're going to do for 2025 and we're going for 2026. Next. Okay, so the term. So David, Jimmy, Sean, Lexi, myself, and Sam will be continuing in our term, while Gary Chan is finished his term. So there'll be a nomination for Gary to continue for the next 2 years as well, which will be taken to a vote later. So the council status. Okay, so a bit of the difference between the board and the council. So what does the council do? We went through earlier what the board does. So the council actually helps, together with the executive pastors, they are responsible for shaping FCC's identity, enforcing the mission and values, charting FCC's theological and spiritual directions, mapping FCC's community life priorities, and putting FCC's faith into action. So the council members are recommended by the executive pastors and appointed by the church board. So again, this is a 2-year term, which is renewable. And the council can have up to 10 members for any term. Next. Yep, so these are the council members. There are 3 of them, and there will be no changes for 2026. Okay, Sean, okay, David. David, come.
Okay, so the Pulse survey is something we do every year to gauge the spiritual and physical, social health of the church. So let's go into it. So it's anonymous. Usually we do get pretty good response. I think this year there was about 70 over responders, which is similar to the previous years. The questions are come from Gallup, and they are used to understand religious organizational engagement. So 3 sections on faith, relationship to the church, and then sections 3 and 4 are more our own personal questions that we've added in to check on how our online service is going, and then asking for stop, start, and continue. Next. So here you see the results for the last 5 years, from 2021 to 2025. And it's kind of graphed, so you can see the changes in the percentage over time. Red means that it's maybe an area of concern. Orange is slightly still concerned, and then green is actually quite healthy, right? And these are the percentage of people who said they either agree or strongly agree to these questions. Okay, so for personal faith, I think maybe one of our weaker areas is the question, I spend time connecting with God every day. Okay, we've only got about 60% of people strongly agreeing with that. But it has shown there is growth over time, so I think that's a positive trend. You can also see on the right-hand column whether it has gone up or gone down from the previous year. Okay, in terms of the other ones, I think any notable changes would be my faith is involved in every aspect of my life. I think that has had a pretty good increase. It went from 67 to 75%. And I'm willing to risk the disapproval of others. It's gone from 75 to 81%. So I think most of these are on a positive trend. Now notice I think the graph is a little bit off. So they're shifted downwards. Actually, my faith gives me an inner peace is our best congregational trait, right? And that is on a very, very steady upward trend. Okay, and you can read these in the slides that you were emailed. So if you have you want to look at the details, you can look at them later on. Yep. Next. Okay, so when it comes to relationship with the church, I think this is where maybe our congregation needs a little more, we have to think as a church how we can build this community, right? So, for example, the top of the one is probably our weakest one. In the last 6 months, someone at FCC has talked to me about the progress of my spiritual growth. Only 44%. It is an upward trend. I mean, in 5 years ago, it was 22%. I guess maybe during COVID, we didn't even talk to each other much less than we do now. But still, we need to work on that. How are we actually really engaging with each of you personally to talk about your spiritual growth? Because for some people, maybe they don't go to a cell group. They only see people on Sunday, and then conversation may not be as deep. So I think as a leadership, or even as all our members, right, we need to ponder, like, what does this mean for us? There's also been improvement in having the opportunity to do what I do best. So it's gone from the red to the orange. So we do make a lot of opportunities for people to step up in ministry, and I think people are doing that. Also, receiving recognition or praise from someone at FCC has gone from 56 to 66%. So that's the fourth one. Also increase over year. But a whole lot of things have also gone down. So at FCC, my spiritual needs are met. That has gone from the green zone into the orange zone. And as a member of FCC, my opinions seem to count, has also decreased. So I hope that we have avenues for people to make their opinions known, especially through the survey, but also just, talking to leaders and pastors. I believe we're open to hearing opinions. And then I have a friend I can confide in and trust at FCC. Okay, this has actually been pretty good. 5 years ago it was red, and now we're at 77%. So I think we do have a lot we can give ourselves a pat on the back for and say we are on the right track, we're doing our best to build this community. Next. Okay, so this is talking about the aspects of our church, like the activities we do and how they meet people's spiritual needs. So you can see 2024 on the top versus 2025, and the lines in green have increased. So such as connecting with others, Bible study, seed, seminars, ministry service, and community service have all gone up. The only one that went down significantly was communion. And I don't know why. Maybe we get tired of it. I see the same thing week after week. So we may need to do more to show people how it can be a meaningful part of the service. But overall, it seems that the worship is still what people enjoy the most. The preaching is second. And then connecting with others would be the third. And seed is the fourth. Maybe an area of concern would be community service and Bible study. They're not meeting people's spiritual needs, or these are not what people are looking for. So it's a bit hard to tell. Yeah. Okay, next. Okay, so this is the results from last year. And the tick marks are to show that last year we got these results, and we've, as a board and council, we've tried to actually implement what we heard. So if you see a tick mark, it means we did something about it, okay? So these are not the results from this year, they're from 1 year ago. So things people said we should stop doing in 2025. For example, the lighting in the toilet. Yeah, I think part of renovation was to fix the delay so you don't have to wave your arms every time the toilet light goes off, right? That was a big problem before. Repositioning the subtitles, right? Now we actually have them in the center. Being inclusive, being clearer about our building fund, renovation fund. Less video worship. I think we've definitely improved. Now we only have that once a month. And stop the recorded worship. Again, worship. Okay, so those are things we try to move towards more live worship in this year. Next. And then things that people said we should start doing, setting boundaries. So now we have come up with a sexual harassment policy. I think that's a big step in trying to clarify what leaders should and shouldn't do. Building our base, mentioning Mentee Anonymous. So these are all things that were recommended, and we've actually managed to do many of them. Yeah, next. Yeah, and then continue. These are things we already did, and we keep on doing them. And it's nice to see so many things we're doing that people actually really appreciate and feel strongly and feel are meaningful and are motivated by, and we can keep on doing them. Okay, so now let's go to this year's results, which are more important. Okay, this is a summary of the verbatim responses. So each of you was asked to, you can key in, write a long paragraph or a short paragraph about what you think should stop, start, and continue. We have tried to group them into themes. So these are not actually what you wrote, but we've gathered all your feedback and summarized them this way. So one of them is to stop last-minute planning. I think that is quite a challenge for a production team when you don't know what's going on at the last minute and you're panicking. So we do need to plan a bit earlier with more communication. Again, stop relying on recorded worship. I think we're working on that. But we do need more, I guess, worship team has to figure out, how to stuff it up every Sunday. Stop making every sermon about social justice. Okay, I mean, some of these, it could be, you never know, it may be one or two people's opinion. So it's really hard to tell, is this the feeling of a vast majority of people or just a minority, right? Because for me personally, I don't think every sermon is about social justice. Maybe that's a stronger theme from our church, but it's not the only thing we talk about. Maybe for some, it's just they're not used to hearing so much about that. So I think it's about being the balance about messages on faith, hope, discipleship as well. Stop criticizing other churches or revealing private information. Okay, this is, again, because this is anonymous, right? Sometimes people make a comment and we don't actually know what they're referring to. Like, what information did we accidentally reveal from up here? And we don't know. So I think if someone actually has a specific concern, I really encourage you to talk to a leader or pastor directly, because this kind of feedback, we cannot take action if we don't know what it is, right? So if I was up here and saying something about finances and I revealed somebody's giving, right? God forbid we ever did that, then please come and tell us right away, yeah? This kind of survey is useful to know, okay, somebody had a concern, but we don't know what the concern was. So hopefully you're out there and you're listening to this, come and talk to one of the leaders who you trust to tell us exactly what was the private information that you felt was revealed. Stop practices that make people uncomfortable. Okay, yeah, as sometimes service leaders say, hey, everyone hold hands, everyone, or give someone next to you a hug. Okay, we get it, not everyone is comfortable to do that, and it kind of puts people on the spot because they don't want to say no. So I think we do take that feedback and say, okay, we shouldn't ask for maybe such physical contact during the service. AI-generated content, yes, this is a good comment. Some people have said it, AI-generated content feels less authentic, so we should try to minimize the use. I think that's fair. Stop giving harsh or blunt feedback. I think this is more in personality. It may again be a specific incident that someone was saying, oh, someone criticized me or something. So I think we just as a community, we do want to communicate, whether it's positive or negative, we should do it lovingly. Next. Okay, so that was the things we should stop doing. Now, things we should start doing, this will actually relate to the programs we want to put into place in 2026. So spiritual formation, maybe more Bible, systematic Bible teaching, Christ-centeredness. So I think one thing people liked last year was the sermon series on the Acts, because it was actually taking a whole book of the Bible through, and we had very good feedback on that, so we're definitely going to do that even more in 2026. Caring for diverse needs, we've also become aware that there are neurodivergent people in the community, and we need to do more in figuring out how to accommodate them. Strengthening cell life, that's always an ongoing issue. We have cell groups opening, closing, people are leaving, people coming, so we do need to support those cell groups. Healthy church culture with kindness, respect, and expanding our outreach. This is something that actually our pastors do a lot of outreach. They partner with other organizations in Singapore, and we don't always talk about it from the platform from up here. So a lot of church members may not even know how much we actually do outside Singapore and inside Singapore. So maybe just more visibility would be good. Governance and integrity, so code of conduct, confidentiality and communication. Whoever wrote that comment, also please talk to us what you actually mean by that. Because we do have the sexual harassment policy, but if there's any other policy we need to do about handling of sensitive information, like private information, financial data, I would like to know what's the actual concern that prompted the comment. Faith in action. Okay, we do want to have more ministry opportunities, and then in-person connection. Yep, next. Okay, and then things that we should continue being inclusive. Yeah, we do make a big emphasis on that. Biblical teaching, as we said, were more sermon series on the Bible, on Bible chapters. community and fellowship, so cell groups, retreats, ACE, worship, more live worship, including worship jam, advocacy and service, hybrid services. Yeah, so we did ask about hybrid services in the question, and we found that so far about 1/3 of the people who responded do watch either twice a week or every week. So which means that the hybrid service is providing a valuable service for people in the community who don't come here, and I think we do have to keep doing it, even though it's labor intensive, but it's getting easier and easier as our processes get more and more streamlined. And then lastly, continuing to have a joyful and encouraging culture, which I hope we do. Thank you. Yeah, and this is the feedback on the hybrid service. So you can see that on the left side, that is blue is those who watch every week, and red is twice a month. So that's about 1/3 of the pie. And then once a month is the orange color. So at least 50% of people watch once a month or more. And then on the right side, it says, if you attend Sunday service, where do you watch? Too small for me to see. Okay, during the live broadcast is the blue, and then during the week is red. So about 1/3 of the people are watching live. And then which segments do you watch? Well, most people watch the sermon, but I'm quite surprised that they stay for the announcements. Because when I'm up there watching the Hive, I can actually see the people climbing. I can see the numbers climbing. And then right after the service, it drops away, right? So at least half of the people who watch the sermon stayed for the whole thing, watch the announcements. And then how important is it that we keep doing this? I think overwhelmingly it's very important we keep doing that. So again, we hope people, if we call for volunteers to step up for production ministry and you voted it's important, please come and help. Okay, next. Okay, so I'll hand over to pastors for the next part.
I'll let you in on a secret. The best sermon series, the most well-received one, was conceived by AI. Or at least the ideas, right? The outline, like how are we going to chop the whole book of Acts and divide it out to preach over, how many weeks do you have? 12, 10, about there? But we could not cut it like, one chapter one, because thematically it needs to be divided properly. And AI helped us do that. But the writing and the ideas that went to it, it wasn't just AI, certainly. If everything is AI, then we'll be out of jobs, right? But it was very helpful. And there is really very little out there that's progressive. And so we offer the progressive lens into it and go, how can we approach this from a different angle? And looking, because some of the AI suggestions I went away from, I didn't go with what AI suggested, right? The breakdown was correct, this theme, but the suggestions were so conventional, so traditional that I'm not going to go it this way. I'm going to go a different way. How does a progressive Christianity look at this passage and what was it really about? Like paying attention to Paul and Silas. Normally we'll focus on them, the doors being flung open and the chains falling down. But they stayed. And that was what's going on here? They stayed. They cared for the jailer, right? The jailer was going to take his own life. And that was the focus that I switched on. Because that was a miraculous thing to me. Right, I think that was something that we need to learn from. But that's let's look forward. I think we look a little bit of 2025. Right, we have finished the renovations. We're in a good space. I think that we have cleared our mortgage last year already. Right, though because we have cleared our mortgage, we're kind of slack about the building fund. Not to blame people, the economic outlook isn't very good. But I want to encourage people to consider, do support the building fund because it's a long-term thing that we're looking at. That's one of the things that I want to talk about. I'm very grateful of how we've grown in different ways in our community. Seed has matured in a way to Sprout and to all the cell groups that we have. And we have gotten things down better. We have learned better how to navigate engaging difference, people who are neurodivergent, people with different needs, but also at the same time have good boundaries good boundaries for the community as well. I think that we need to learn some clarity about when someone comes to us with their needs, or some people come forward with their issues, right? We might not be able to give everything that they need, or actually give them everything that they want. And what they want may not be good for them. And knowing boundaries and having a good system of how to care for one another and very clear communications is what we're looking at. And we are still growing in that. We're not perfect. But I think looking back in the year 2020, the past year, I see that I've grown. Right. So, yeah.
So, sorry, that one should be 2025. So 2024, 2025. So our multi-year focus, we introduced it in 2023. And we said that our goal as a church overall is to walk each other towards growth and wholeness in Christ. Something very familiar to all of you. And we wanted to keep it as a repeated theme because it's a very big goal, right? It's not something that we'll accomplish in a year, or maybe not even in 5 years, but at least it's something that we're keeping in our minds to help us, to guide us, right, as a community in terms of what do we really want to do, what's our mission together. So just to give you a kind of a background, right, in 2024, we introduced Selah, the theme of a year of renewal. So what we did that year was that we tried to kind of reduce as much as we could any kind of extra programming and all that, so that everybody, the pastors, the leaders, the ministries, volunteers, everyone gets to kind of just take a breather, right? We're still doing church. We still had a lot of things going on. But we said we will not pile on additional things. We'll try to cut back as best as possible so everyone can breathe together. And then in 2025, which was this year, our theme was to thrive, right? And what thriving would look like in terms of when we say growing towards wholeness, what does that look like? So we tried to look at that through our sermon series, through the programs that we had, through some of the workshops and different things that we did with our groups as well. Okay. And then this year, in 2026, so a couple of months ago, was it about a month ago, the board, council, and the pastors, we had our day of planning. And in our day of planning, we're looking through all of the responses that you all had in the past survey that David just shared with you. And then we kind of pondered together, reflected together, discerned together what should be our theme for this coming year. As we were discussing, I remember David was the one who said something about rootedness. And you're like, yeah, that really resonated with me. And it resonated with quite a lot of people, right, at that space. And we knew that, I think that's kind of where God is kind of inviting us toward, even in 2026, that we needed to learn how to grow roots together. So if we wanted to thrive, it starts with our roots. How deep we can go, how wide we can extend. So it's not just going deep, it's also going wide. All right, so we look at it in 3 dimensions: in our foundations, right, in deepening, in the way we are nourished, right, in nourishment, and in our connections as we extend. So that is kind of our overall theme for 2026. Yeah. Anything to add?
So 2026, I'm taking a sabbatical from April to June. So, so for 2026, the direction and all the planning, Pauline has been taking the lead, right? And I'm worried, but I think that everything will be fine. But looking at the calendar, some things need to be, because we'll be down one pastor. The fortunate thing is Gary's around, so he will take over. Some of the preaching that he will take over a lot of the slack in some ways. When I'm away, but I'm not away the whole year, right? So what we have done this year, Jimmy led Living Water, and it was very successful how he designed the curriculum, and he used AI to help. And that's when a lot of people will freak out, right? AI again. And what he has demonstrated to us how useful it could be and how it could design curriculum better than us. Now, I'm not a curriculum designer. And so using that, what I'm going to do in the time that I'm around, the first thing that we're going to do for Roots in the beginning of the year is we're going to do a foundational course on.
So I'm going to show them.
show them.
Because it's there.
Yeah.
Eh? It's not there. Where is our
This,
slide?
so our slide is not in here.
Our slide is missing.
Okay, so why don't you
Oh,
email
dear.
it's hidden.
Why? Yeah, it must be hidden lah.
Is
Can
it hidden?
Unhidden?
Can we unhide
Can
it?
you unhide it? I'm on
Okay.
Menti, I can't unhide it here.
Okay, anyway.
Yes, so anyway, you can share while we try to unhide that slide for you.
Okay. So, at least for January to March, I'll be able to do one course that we will go through. And there's a lot of interest in this. One is a biblical foundations course, like how do you read the Bible kind approach, and then also and I think that sets the foundation for a lot of the things that we're going to do. Also, we will be teaming up. Jimmy is committed to leading the Living Water again in July, August. Like what we are going to do in the same pattern. After Pink Dot, we're going to do Living Water again for July, August. So that's kind of the seasonal thing that we are going to be doing in 2026. That's the when I'm around, and looking at the power of some of the AI. This AI is called Notebook AI, I think. Notebook? Yeah, something like that. I also paid money for it, and it's very good when we feed in all the information. It's able to summarize and give and classify into classes, right? It's actually to help students learn, and create videos and all that. And it will be, and we are hoping that we can build up a IT curriculum team, IT team, that we can use AI to really magnify or to amplify the kind of work that we are doing. Whereas we are weak, we are short on resources, but we are not short on materials.
So we have a lot of substance actually already. So in terms of all of our sermon videos, in terms of our workshop videos, in terms of a lot of the curriculum that we have actually built up over the years, we actually have a lot. It's actually about how do you kind of like extract them to make them into more palatable, like presentable ways, right, to teaching, right? So to creating videos very easily now in multiple languages, for example, from the substance, the content that we already have. So it's more that we're wanting to kind of put some time in as well. Let's open up the thing.
I'll read it from my slide that Pauline and I worked on. I think that growing deeper and wider in our foundations, nourishment, and connections. First, we begin with working our relationship with God and others. Second is to learn to nourish ourselves and then connect with and service to others. So the deepening of our roots via cell groups, ministry groups, and church-wide activities, there will be a focus on that. And I think that we're not waiting until 2026.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Because these roots, we are actually kicking off in Advent on the 30th of November, actually. It will start, because the church calendar actually starts on Advent, so we will kick off this program from this year in a way. One of the things that we didn't announce today, and we forgot to send out the slides, is we are going to do afterward, which is a post-sermon discussion that we will pre-announce, right? Like we know that there'll be a challenging sermon, or the past few sermons that we have done, there are questions. We invite people to stay back to have a conversation, to have Q&A kind of thing, ask the pastor anything in the room at the back, and then we will have a quick session, to clarify. It's not a debate. It's not to, I'm wrong, you're right, and all that. But it's to clarify. You said that during the sermon. What do you exactly mean? I think that's an opportunity to learn and interact. So we are going to start off next Sunday already, because I know that sermon is going to be quite tough. I know my material is going to be very challenging for a lot of people, and so I welcome that people to come out and go like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by Jesus was wrong and all that? And I think that will be a fun engagement, fun, and also allows us to learn on a different educational. Yeah, yeah. I enjoy this kind of engagement because I myself felt challenged very often, and that's how I grow, right?
Yeah, so, in response to a lot of what the pulse survey people were saying, right? So whether it's biblical, or they want something more biblical, whether it's because they want to be able to connect more, right? We thought that it was very important for us to be deepening our roots via our cell groups, our ministry groups, and our church-wide activities. So what we mean by that is that, we talked about spiritual growth, right? There was quite a bit, we looked at our pulse survey, and we said, oh yeah, we need a little bit of work when it comes to personal spiritual growth and having conversations about spiritual growth. So I don't think that it's because we don't care about people's spiritual growth, but I think the reflection that we had from the planning meeting was that we don't necessarily use language around it that everybody is familiar with, and that people feel that there's a permission, right, for us to actually ask, hey David, how are you doing spiritually? We may not have that culture, right, within FCC to say, hey, let's talk about where your spirituality is. So even though we introduced spiritual companions for our leaders a couple of years ago, and then they have spiritual conversations, but we know that in terms of congregationally, we need to kind of expand some of these conversations as we go along. And that's something that we hope to build in, even in next year when we talk about developing roots. Okay. So Miak talked about, so we have the 3 dimensions, right? Foundations, nourishment, and connections. So Miak was talking about the foundations part, right? Which is, the part about Bible literacy, right? Doing the foundational part of reading Bible. And one of the reasons why we thought that would be really helpful also is because in the Living Water program, the very first session is actually on Bible literacy. And I was telling Jimmy that time, is that I think this would be so beneficial to actually church-wide, to all of our congregants, because it will give you all so much background to actually understanding the Bible better. And so we thought that it would be great for us to be able to introduce a more established and a more developed program, right, in the beginning of the year while Miak is still around, before his 10-week sabbatical after Easter. Yeah. The other thing about the foundations is that, as we said, we wanted to do 2 preaching series on the Bible, that's all on Bible books, right? So one will be on the Old Testament, an Old Testament book, and one will be on the New Testament book next year. Okay? Yeah.
I have forwarded the slide over to the production team. You can use the screenshot lah. Don't need to look at. I'm not sure if they are able to do that. Anyway, while they're doing it.
Cannot
It's a JPEG lah.
Yeah. Sorry?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Deleted. Yeah,
Oh,
it doesn't get
they
uploaded
don't
on
put it
Menti lah.
Mentimeter.
Okay,
I
that's fine.
I see. So why would they hide this slide though? Okay. Sorry, these were the details that we did want to share with you. So, okay.
So as Pauline shared about, I think that we need to learn the language, the vocabulary, and the skill sets, right? Sometimes what we define as spiritual growth might differ from one another, and sometimes some growth is, we don't even realize that that's spiritual growth. And I think that that's something that we want to invite people to be able to start off by saying, what does spiritual growth mean to me? What is spiritual nourishment? And then be able to define that so that those needs are met. If our needs are not named, it's hard to get them addressed in some ways, right? That doesn't mean that we will address everything, but it's also about clarity as well.
Yeah. So it's about basically setting intentions in the beginning of the year, and then checking in our progress by the end of the year. So if we say spiritual growth means this to me in the beginning of the year, by the end of the year we want to kind of check in with each other and go like, how did that go? And how are you progressing on that? And then Miak talked about so undernourishment and afterword, which is a new program we're kind of introducing for not every week, but periodically, so that we can have conversations with the pastors about the sermons, questions you have, challenges we have about certain things, okay? Right. And then we'll be having training and workshops as well. So I think one of the things we talked a lot about this year was about boundaries, what it means to be healthy, to have healthy boundaries, right? Yeah, because, this is last year. Okay, focus for 2026, correct. If you scroll down a bit. No, that's for 2025. You scroll down. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay, yeah. So we are at nourishment, if you can see. Is it clear enough? It's a bit small, right? Okay. So training and workshops, where we talked a lot about having healthy boundaries, because if we want to be truly inclusive, we also need to have very healthy and clear boundaries. But I know, especially in this year, as I was working with a lot of cell group leaders and the group members and different kind of ministries and challenges, conflicts, difficult members, challenging situations, I realized that we also, while we know theoretically, okay, we need healthy boundaries, but the question is, how do we actually practice them, you know, when actual situations happen, when people say certain things, when they ask for certain things, you know. So we're going to do workshops on having difficult conversations, and especially around boundaries. And then what does that look like? Role playing and things like that. So I think, like Miak said earlier, you know, we're not perfect. We're all learning, including the pastors. We're all trying our best. To be clear is kind, right? You know, we're all learning. We are getting a little bit better, but we're also trying to support one another in this learning process, right? So I think education is important for our leaders as well as even our members, and so that when we actually practice healthy boundaries, we can love better and we can include better. All right.
I want to say one thing that came to my mind when you were talking about that. In the past, I must admit, while I'm very anti-patriarchy and all that, I realized that there are a lot of times I'm very protective and I want to jump in to rescue or to protect the congregation in some ways when something happened and then I want to solve the problem. I want to be involved in that. But what I've come to see this year, and it's very moving for me, is that the congregation, the members, not just the leaders, but the people in this community have taken on the task of addressing the conflict, addressing the situations themselves. They are coming to us, not to ask us, Mia, Pauline, can you help us talk to this person? But they have moved
also
have, but those are difficult ones.
But there's been improvement in many other cases. They
are moving towards, we will, help, give us advice, or we are thinking of doing this. Is that okay? And to see that growth is really, really powerful in this community. And I think that it is the kind of thing that I feel pushed to, I need to learn more. And I've been like trying to follow Brene Brown everywhere she, every video she interview and everything she gives, I follow. I think that that's the kind of growth that we want to see. Right, as you're growing, we are growing, and then we learn as a community together, and that's the roots, right? And then
Yes. So we are going to learn together. Okay, so in the coming year, we'll learn together. We also want to look at connections. So extending, we're going deep. We also want to extend wider. Okay. So one of the things that came up from our cell group leaders, and really good, I think, feedback, and especially Miguel actually came up with this, really great suggestion, is actually having connect sessions for cell group leaders. So cell group leaders, I would tell people, right, cell group ministry is just the hardest ministry, right? And I appreciate cell group leaders so much, right? Because you're basically taking care of a mini church. It's very tough, and I'm so grateful for all of our cell group leaders. And they need a lot of support, but not just from the pastors. Actually, they would benefit so much from peer support from each other, So we are actually planning, and Angela has been very, very kind, because Angela's a very experienced facilitator, and she offered to facilitate these regular connect sessions for our cell group leaders. So we're very grateful for Angela, for Miguel, who suggested it. And so they're going to start with their first one next year in the first quarter. And then we'll see how that goes, and hopefully we can continue that once every quarter if everyone is on board for it, okay? The other thing that we want for connections is, we talked about spiritual growth, right? But spiritual growth is something that you not only tend to yourself, but it also helps when you're able to share with one another and also to hold each other accountable. So not to be evil and go like, how you doing? Are you still doing your mountaintop thing? Are you not? But rather to come from a place of care and curiosity, like how are you doing? How has your, you said that spiritually you wanted to do this and this and this. How has that been going for you? Has it been challenging? That kind of thing. So we want to kind of create spaces, especially we're going into Lent, in the Lent period, right? Next year, before the whole Holy Week period. I think it would be really great to have ways for us, not just within cell groups, because I know that a lot of you may not be in cell groups, but we're going to figure out ways for you all to be able to do activities of sharing with one another, okay, to help each other in your spiritual growth goals. Yeah.
Because listening is one skill that
Yes.
actually helps us to grow, and it's not easy, and that might be a tied up objective as well, right? Of course, we have external opportunities next year. Next year is turning out to be rather exciting. In June, the 19th, right?
Yeah. 19th,
19th of June, Amplify Conference will be held in Hong Kong. So we will be rather involved in
So for those of you who don't know about Amplify or hadn't had a chance to attend Amplify, because the last Amplify you had before COVID started, right? So some of you may not have heard of it. Amplify is our conference for affirming churches in Asia, right? And it was actually kick-started by FCC originally as like a worship conference many, many years ago. And then it kind of made its rounds in different countries. So this year we're going to restart it again. It's going to be in Hong Kong. So we're working with the Hong Kong churches, and then there's a team that basically is helping to organize this. We'll come in as well. We'll be involved. But it will be amazing. So do think about putting time aside, right? We're giving you the dates quite early because we want you to kind of, if possible, come for it. Because if you've ever wondered what it looks like to praise and worship with like 300 over people or more, of Christians, affirming Christians from all over Asia, from all the different countries, in different languages, and to learn together through training workshops, through the preaching sessions and all that. Come for this. This is going to be an amazing, and I would think this coming year, that I think it will be actually pretty special, especially since we haven't had it for quite a few years. The last 2 years, I was just sharing the board and council. I'm just sensing that there's been a shift in the way that many of the churches in the different parts of Asia are moving. And a lot of people are standing up and saying, hey, let's do something together. So I think we'll see that shift kind of materialize in Amplify next year. So I'm very excited to see what that would look like.
So clarity, Amplify Conference isn't just the FCC project,
No.
right? So we need to be clear about
Boundaries.
But we have been very involved, and so that's something that we will be part of. The other thing that is very worth celebrating is Tong Guang is in Taipei is celebrating the 30th anniversary, and Xiao En is going to get ordained on that same weekend, and so that will be the first, second. The weekend of the
first weekend of May.
Yeah, the first weekend of May,
weekend.
the May Day weekend. So. A lot of us are going to be there. I'm on sabbatical, but I'm flying down. Just to have a break from the. I have to be there.
Yes.
I really, it's really a powerful moment to see that journey as well, and I want to be there.
Yeah.
And so that's the.
And for those of you who don't know, Tong Guang is actually the oldest affirming church in Asia, at least that we know of.
That's our
FCC is 22, right? Tong Guang is 30, and they're the oldest.
The big sis of the few. And then there is, of course, the 1946 screenings that we were. We sort of.
That we kind of was a catalyst for Asia. So we premiered it in Singapore. And then that became the possibility, and we said we offered help to be able to connect with the other churches in the other parts of Asia. So I'm working with the 1946 team actually quite closely on the Korea and Japan side, because we know pastors there, and there are a lot of people who are actually very excited about screening it there. Because this film has been translated in a few languages, so in Chinese, both simplified and traditional, and in Thai. And then now in Korean and Japanese. So we want to see that screening happen next year. So we're working towards that as well with them.
So just for people who do not know that, we were quite involved in the Chinese translations. So I want to recognize that we were invisibly doing the work, but oftentimes, I think that we are sometimes shy to claim credit for things. But I think that God used us in that moment. I thought that we didn't sell out the show, so I thought it was a failure. But I think God has other intentions, and it was screened in China, it was screened in Hong Kong, it was screened in Bangkok, And so, yeah, now it's going to be in Korea and Japan as well.
Yeah. So that's what we have for you in general. I mean, there'll be a lot of things that will come up as well, but at least broadly, we want to kind of take you along with us in terms of where we feel like, God is leading us, and so that hopefully you can be excited also about what God might want to do in and through us and you. Okay.
So many years ago, I shared about my experience hiking in the redwoods. I studied in California, so the redwoods were very common. And one thing I learned was that the redwoods grow to be very, very tall, right? About 30 meters tall. But their roots are very, very shallow, unlike the roots of the trees that we have in Singapore or the tropical trees that we have. The roots are actually less than a meter, less than 2 meters deep. To have them so tall and being able to withstand the storms, their roots actually interconnect with each other. So they are not dependent on their own roots to stand in the storm. The roots connect and twist and tangle with one another under the ground to keep the entire forest standing. And that was amazing, one of the things I learned, and I was like, this metaphor is so good because too often we think that we must stand alone. No, we don't. So I leave that for us to reflect on as we move on in this meeting.
Thank you, pastors, for the update. So I think a few key dates to notice. I think Amplified, we are looking at 19th of June. You'll be Hong Kong. I think more detail will be shared soon. I've been to almost all the Amplified since it started. I think it's something I personally really recommend. If you have the budget, you have the time, it's something for you to go and really experience it. And the interaction with the other churches really empower you to, see things in a different light. And also really, get to learn about other churches, the struggles of other churches that you don't experience, especially in Singapore. We are safe, but yet not safe. But when you go to other countries, you experience other churches, you learn more stuff from there. So that's my recommendation. So I'll move towards the budget. A few things to update about the budget. So we'll cover first on the FCC building fund. The next slide. So our current situation, where we are. Okay, so FCC building right now is 16 years old. We have about 13 years left in terms of the lease, which means, like, based on my age, I'll be 50. I'm almost 60 by then. So, looking at it, okay, I have to be the reality, right? From now to where I'm 60, it pushed me to think about it. My earning will start to go down, right? But we still need to keep, in terms of keeping the budget, to make sure that we have the budget ready. So right now, in terms of how it works, okay, for the new members who don't understand, One Commonwealth is actually operated by free commune. Okay, during the week as an audio or video production, or in the future maybe we can, I hope that we can transform it into a TikTok production, a live streaming. No, all these are part of production. So there's a venue that can be used. Because right now there isn't any venues not a lot of venues can be used for TikTok Live. Okay, so this potentially can be used on weekdays night. So the purpose is to make sure that we are compliant with the 1B requirements, the B1 requirements by the government of this building. Then right now we are not actively seeking outside customers due to the cost of operation. Because for example, if any of the AV need to be used, we need to hire one person in. So there's a lot of process need to be done. So right now we're not active. Usually people who want to rent the space are members of the church or friends of FCC. When they tell us, then we will rent out the space for very low cost. In terms of mortgage, or what Miak mentioned, is actually fully paid in January 2024. So right now, as he said, we are able to use One Commonwealth till 2038, okay, when the lease ends. So most of us or your company will probably be looking at 2030 plan. So we have to think of our 2038 plan, okay, when the lease is over, what it's going to do with it. So the next slide. So what our desired outcome is, protect our FCC long-term financial interests. which we are doing for the capital preservation and the appreciation. We want to express FCC mission in a wider community of equality, inclusivity, and diversity. We want to build a long-term finance reserve towards future building fund. So after 2038, right, in a way, when the lease really finish, or it depends on what they can do with this building. If they continue, great. If they don't, means that we are homeless. Okay, reality is we will be homeless. Okay, so what we need to do is, really think about what we need to plan for. So at the same time, we need to comply with the regulatory requirements. Also at the same time, look at how FCC evolved. We started a few years ago here, we have evolved quite a fair bit. In the past, we probably have, like, for example, children ministry once a month, or sometimes don't even have a actual children ministry. But now a children ministry is very important, for example. Last time, we don't really need to do life services. Life services become part of our journey, part of our life. So really, we need to look at, how do we also improve the efficiency of the use of the space that we have to make sure that we can cater to the different needs in the future also. Next slide. So the next step, okay, so we propose that we continue our annual budget of 100,000 to be raised at the building fund, which is started in 2025. So if you think about it, for the next 13 years, we have 100,000, we're looking at about 1.3 million, okay, to help us in terms of building up to the future building fund. So we really encourage all members to consider allocating a portion of the giving to the building fund. So 100,000 from 2025 all the way to 2038, we have 13 years. So we break down as 100,000 a year, but for the full, it's 1.3 million. So if any of you happen to have bigger bonus for the next few years, please consider that if you really think that this is consider your home. Okay, like some of us have been here for more than 20 years. Yeah, so it's really clear we consider our home and really take that into consideration. We aim to build a reserve about 2 million towards the down payment, and then the renovation of the new building by end 2038, about 1.4 million through the annual building fund, 600K through one-off giving. These also include the investment, the collected fund in a low-risk financial instruments to enhance against the inflationary risk. Okay, so these are the things that we'll be doing. So some of the numbers, remember, we want to build 100,000 a year, okay, to hit 1.3 million. Overall, we are aiming to build a reserve of 2 million. Okay. Next, so proposed FCC budget for 2026. Okay, for 2025, where we are. For general fund, based on 1st October, that means finishing quarter 1, finishing quarter 3, total of 3 quarters have gone. We are only hitting about 72.9% versus our target of 75%. Based on the current giving in October, we are still a bit short. We are still short for both general fund and building fund. Especially building fund, we are still quite behind with about 69.1% versus our target of 75% in terms of the budget-wise for both budgets. So we only left with 2 months to hit our budget. What is the chances of hitting the budget will depend slowly on November and December. Okay. Next, in terms of the budget-wise, this is the overall proposed budget. Wait, let me just open. Okay.
Yeah, so for those who didn't hear, a few Sundays ago, we announced the board is actually committed to increase our own giving by 10%. And we hope by doing this, we can also set an example for others and inspire everyone to help us meet that gap for this year. The other thing about the one-off giving for the building fund is that we know people are starting to think about their legacy. So, when you nominate your CPF, you actually can designate friends, family, or even organizations to receive a portion of your CPF upon your passing. So this is something, if you feel moved to do so by the Spirit, we can actually help you with that. Like if you need to know how to do it, actually me and Wendy were thinking of doing that as well. You can come and talk to me, because we've been thinking about how this process would work, and you do need 2 witnesses and so on. So yeah, do consider preferably if that's something you might want to do to help us with our building fund. Thanks.
This will be more long-term future. When I see everyone here, I expect another 20, 30 years that everybody's still alive, so yes. So I didn't want to go in detail because I was looking at, okay, the average age group here probably another 20 years should be okay, no problem, okay. Singapore, okay. So in terms of the proposed plan 2026 budget, slightly increased by about 3.2% over the plan 2025 budget. So most of the increase actually comes from the increase in the salary, which is estimated to be about 4 to 5%. There's also a small increase in the pastoral care budget. And we also have a new line item called the Community Action and Ministry Activities to fund our outreach efforts that will be added in 2026. But at the same time, we also reduced the budget slightly for certain items, such as the general and admin and service related, which was done in the middle of this year during the AGM, where some money will move from these newly created community action ministry activities. The budget for this item will reduce because our processes are more or less streamlined, and we don't need so much buffer for audit. So last time we were chasing the audit, right? Every time we are audit, then all of us have to scramble to do the ACRA. After ACRA, we have to do the charity portal, etc. So now it's more streamlined. So we are very year to date. We are actually on par on where we need to hit. And the good thing is we are actually earlier than a lot of organizations right now to make sure, because I receive messages from the charity board say, oh, finally you're actually on time and you're earlier than a lot of the organization, which is a good thing for all of us. So that is very good. Then most of the other lines actually remain largely unchanged. Yeah, so that is the budget for 2026. So some of the key highlights I mentioned is the slight increase. So we're not looking at a huge increase, and mainly coming from the salary line, which is 4 to 5%, which is quite aligned with the plan incremental that we see in the industry itself. So yeah. Based on what we see right now, 120, yeah. But averagely is about 100,000. So 120 is what we aim. But in our heart, we are hoping, in our heart is 100,000 minimal, okay? So, most of you are in the business, know we'll put a higher target. The 120%, but in our heart, hopefully we can hit 100%. So every year you see it's 120, but in our heart it's 100. Okay. Business. So especially 2026, I know 2026 probably will be quite uncertainty, a certain year across, whether is it any business itself. So I think encouragement, those who are online or those who are watching it later, please bear in mind that, if really you see this as your home, really hope that, you can increase your giving, okay, so that, we can hit our budget. As you can see, 2025, the fluctuation is pretty big. So sometimes it's very hard for us to plan, okay, because what we are trying to do, we are trying not to touch our surplus as much as possible, because the surplus, what we can use it is more for our future planning. When the situation changes drastically, we can use the surplus. So as much as possible, we are trying not to use the surplus that we have in our account itself. So next, after this, I think it's more on, is there any Q&A, any questions that you have in your mind that, we can ask the pastors, the board, or about the house surveys or the budget before we go into the voting? Any questions?
So I did it quite a long time ago, so I can't really remember whether there are any questions on demographics in terms of the composition of the surveillance, how to have. Yeah, I mean that I saw about 88 responses so I think that's quite good because welcome team we usually track the attendance, right? So we usually get about 70, 80. So that's about, I mean, assuming the people who responded in the survey are also the people who attended, attend service, then that's quite a good number lah. Yeah.
So every year during our pulse survey, the respondents is about 85 to 90 people. It is in that range. For the past number of years, it's always about 85 to 90. So it's quite reflective of our community.
I think I asked that because I think we have to be careful about how we draw the conclusions from the survey lah. One thing is, because the first dimension is about faith, second dimension is about church. And if you put them side by side, you compare, you start to realize that if you want to draw a connection between cause and effect, like is the cause the church, and then the effect is the spiritual growth, then you see it starts to raise some questions because there's a gap there. Then the other thing is the hybrid services, because it depends on who responds to it and how the question was phrased. Because when I see the questions, I'm thinking, okay, we don't know whether these people only attended only online or only face-to-face, or whether they face-to-face but they review online and therefore they find it useful, or is it the people who only attend online? So that one, I'm not too sure. Because then we have to be careful with that lah. Yeah. What do they find it useful for? Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I'll just stop there.
I can respond to the online one. Actually, 1 year ago, I was the biggest proponent to stop doing online because I felt like it's a lot of people involved, like our labor is involved. You know, so many people are doing volunteering to do it. And those people on duty, sometimes they may not be worshipping because they're so busy focused on the task. So I thought maybe that's not serving our people that well. But then I realized that there's a lot of people who actually watch online before they come here. This is how they get introduced to FCC. So after watching for a few months, then they dare to show up in person because they feel they got used to us already. So in that sense, it does serve a need. And then there are people overseas who can never actually come here, but have become regular watchers. So I think that's also a demographic that we serve. And thirdly, now the processes are becoming easier and easier. Like we've renovated the hive. A lot of our old technical issues are gone. So that I think the labor has reduced. So with all those in mind, I feel we should keep doing it. There's enough people who watch. Even about 30, 40 every week, you can see they are watching live. And then during the week, we get about 300 over. Now, I don't know what counts as a view. Maybe 5 seconds is a view. But at least 300 registered viewers have seen our videos or more.
Closer to 200 plus. But the data is that the average time that they spend viewing, the average, is about 24 minutes. Meaning that if there are people who are watching for 5 seconds, there is someone who watched for the entire service. So there is a significant, really, really significant number of people who actually watch our services, at least more than, at least an hour of it, I think. Because 200 people, if you divide out the average, 24 minutes is significant. I wouldn't have thought that. So when I first checked the data on YouTube, I was stunned. Yeah, I would have thought that it might be 10 minutes average, but it was 24 minutes. And 200 to 250 people per week. Yeah, so that's significant.
So at this point, I feel convinced that it's something worth doing. And I think maybe we need to do more so that those on duty can also experience the service. Because I don't know whether being on duty is negatively taking away from the service experience, or that you actually get some meaning out of serving as well. So maybe it's both. It's hard to say. Yeah.
And which is why the hope is to have more volunteers, so people only serve once a month, and on the other weeks they are actually being served, and that balances us out, right? And that's the leaning into that. Yeah, but very grateful for the work that is done, and I think that was it just last week that someone actually said to I was sitting said, I'm here because you did the work. Because this person watched the services online for quite a while before coming to FCC. And told the volunteer, right, and I was right there, and I was like, this can only be said by you, if I say it doesn't, it's like, I'm making that person feel good, right? But this is a real human being who is a newcomer to FCC. Miguel?
Yeah, also about the Pulse survey, the last set of questions. I'm just wondering if we can put some kind of preamble or something to prompt people on how to answer the question, because sometimes people just make really offhand comments. We don't know if it's something very serious or it's just a sort of general broad comment, and we don't know if it's the person who's new to FCC, so maybe someone only watched 2 sermons this year and they're both about social justice, and then they think everything is about social justice, or and then sometimes people say very harsh things like in YouTube comments, you know, that type of social media thing, and it's not really very helpful. So I don't know if it makes sense to put some kind of preamble to say, to kind of prompt people to say, to take time to think about how they're saying what they're saying and if it's the right way. And I don't know if there's other channels. We should also mention maybe there's other channels for feedback that might be more anonymous or for more serious things, or as I like the idea of the after church discussion, so that if people do have concerns, they can actually discuss it. So yes, and the other option is to have a separate survey just for the I don't know if that's too much work, just for the qualitative, you know, the written questions, so people can actually put their name on that one, whereas the other survey is just multiple choice, so it doesn't really matter. But anyway, that's just an idea. Yeah.
Thank you, Miguel. I'll say this as a personally, the first few years we did this survey, I felt personally affected by the feedback. Really, you know. But I've come to learn to moderate my own reaction to it and to hear what is really behind that and not be defensive. Because really, the number of sermons that are social justice oriented, not that many. I know when they are. I know when I get, you know. And if it's a comment, I think there was a comment about the tone, that because I'm very personally invested in these issues and my passion shines through. And there are people who are uncomfortable with that level of intensity. And that's okay. I mean, I need to learn for them to be not okay with that. You know, I know that intensity might not be comfortable for them. But I also remember that maybe that's my job, to afflict the comfortable and to comfort the afflicted. And that might be seeing myself doing my job in some way. But be gentle on the respondents, right? And I think that it would be good to put a preamble that if there's a specific issue, please reach out to the board or the pastors or the leader or any leader to tackle the issue. Because if it's not specific, it's very hard to address that. And sometimes it might not be, we are imagining in our head that we have leaked some private information from the pulpit. But it was actually in a private conversation. And I think that in a private conversation is a different level from what we're doing during announcements, right? So I think there needs to be a balance. Yeah. And invite people to grow, to give direct feedback. You know what? I don't think that you should be saying this, you know, if they feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, you can actually indicate your name. That's been consistent over the years as well. So, I mean, I'll be, I don't know whether maybe the person feels unsafe or worried that there'll be backlash, but I think the point of the asking for the name is really to be able to help address, right? Yeah.
And it might be to put up, like, if you do not leave your name, then we cannot follow up with the issues that you've raised, and you know, and leave it as that. Yeah, but that's natural.
Yeah, so actually I also thought we need a preamble to moderate the kind of comments and to allow for that feedback to occur. But then at the same time, because it's anonymous, it is sort of a sense that there's at least one person out there who thinks this, right? So as a church, we're not going to be reactive. Like we just say, oh, we're going to change our whole preaching style just because one person said something. That may not be the case, but it's still good to know that such thoughts exist.
I think I just want to add, like, one of them was saying that, making people feel uncomfortable. I think, like, for example, if like holding hand or like saying good morning or hug is really when even the service leader or even pastors will always say, if you are willing and able. I think that's always the thing we will say. But at the same time, we also acknowledge the fact that there will always be people who are uncomfortable. It depends on the period that you are in, where you are in that space itself. That sometimes in my day is like, I will do duty and then I'll disappear because I just want to be having my own space. So that's something we also need to acknowledge. So as a congregation, as a member, I seek your support. If you identify someone that you feel was very uncomfortable during any of the service, please approach the welcome team or even the pastor so that we can address it. Because sometimes we may not notice it. So it's a good exercise for us as a members to identify new members or even people who you feel that they're very uncomfortable with something, that need to address it so that we can address it at the current moment to understand. Because a lot of time it's something that I keep to myself and it start to manifest inside us. Yeah.
Just on that note, as a word of caution, we have to watch out for the neurodivergent among us who may come across that way and may not truly have anything, so to speak, inside that's really, quote, wrong, and their aversion to contact or anything may not be relevant to that. So just because someone is being socially awkward may not be a reflection of genuine social fear, but maybe just their neuroatypical condition. So just bear that in mind as well so that we don't reflexively go around trying to fix everyone's issues. Some people just may be that way, and that's totally all right as well. It's just knowing that that's what it is versus wondering if there is some deep-seated, deeper problem that might need to be addressed or we would like to help address, I should say.
That's a very good point. Like, in fact, although we say it's always by invitation, even to say, hey, everyone, hold hands if you feel comfortable, we'll put the onus on the person to say no, and then they feel embarrassed to say no, and then they're uncomfortable. So I think that actually was good feedback. That is, for people up here, we maybe need to moderate how much physical contact we are asking everyone to try to do. Yeah.
The only thing we cannot is the chair, the distance of the chair. Because that's the only thing. But okay, so any more questions? Well, I try to hope to finish I hope to close by 3 p.m. Voting link. No, before that, any more last question before we go to the voting? Oh.
I just wanted to understand whether does the board look at the numbers of the congregation as one of the key growth factors, as in like the size? I mean, typically if you go by church, right, they normally gauge the growth or the size, the church by the size of the congregation. Like the church grew from what number to what number over the years. I think for a long time, our congregation size has always been fairly constant. There's not much growth in that sense. So I don't know if this is something that the board is trying to grow in, or is something you feel that does not necessarily reflect the growth of the church, or do you think this is something that is important to the members? Because I understand for some of the members or ex-members, they felt that this is a significant thing that the church should actually pay attention to in terms of growing the congregation size. So I just want to hear what's the comments from the board. Yeah.
I think the measurement of numbers is quite muddled at the moment because on a Sunday we have 80. Today how many people are? 74, right? We have between 70 plus to 90 people on a given Sunday. And when we had our anniversary service, we hit 138. And that is, the numbers, I think, can be quite significant. I don't think that there's a lack of growth, per se, because because people have been choosing to attend half the time physically. The other 2 weeks, they're actually online. So the numbers add up. We are about 100 plus on a Sunday at live. Plus those who join us post-service, that will be another like 40 to 50 people at the very least. So there is growth. The difficulty about measuring numbers is that it doesn't reflect a lot of what we were driving after is we want to go after the depths, and very naturally the numbers will follow. Because to be really, really honest, if we have started off from wanting numbers, we have done it in a very mechanical way and very strategic way, and the marketing, way that is that will chase after everybody and create very not so natural ways of people connecting in a way. What we have done is our approach has always been very organic. And if you look at Seed, and I must give kudos to Jeffrey and all the leaders who stepped up to lead Seed. Seed has become a very, very, very successful program to get people integrated in the community, and they hang out. How many people from Seed and now in Cell Group are here right now in this meeting? Please raise your hands. They are also invested in this community. They show up. And I am kudos to them. This program is organic, and to me, the shocking thing is that it's diverse. My experience looking at it is that the people, at first, people come to FCC, we no longer have a core demographic that people can gel together. It's chapalang, it's a mixture, it's rojak. And yet, whether you are LGBT, straight, no matter which age group you are, in the Seed group, they bond. That's a reflection of God's kingdom to me. And by accident, we have discovered it, or we have found a way to get it to bond. How do they gel? I have no freaking idea. Vines and branches, I don't know how you're gel. Right? Because you're diverse, but you do. I look at all the Seed groups, they have been gelling, and they graduated, they become, and I think that's the way that we are moving towards. And at the same time, we want to think about how do we include those who have drifted off for a while and want to come back and want to connect back. And and that's something that we want to pay attention to as well, which is part of the roots idea, right? Going back to our roots in some way. And everyone is welcome back. There's no judgment, right? If there was a conflict that caused people to leave, we want to address that conflict somehow, right? At least we have some form of reconciliation and moving forward. So that's how we emulate community. But not focusing just on the numbers, but the quality of the relationship. And that will reflect what kind of community we are. I have been very resistant from the very beginning to look at numbers, because numbers can be very easily manipulated. And they are,
So I just wanted to jump on that, right? Because I understand, the kind of, idea about growth in terms of numbers, and, we're on the same page when it comes to depth. One of the things in our Pulse survey, right, we actually have one of the categories that say, I have a best friend, I have a good friend in FCC. And I think 5 years ago, it was like in the reds. It was like, I don't know, 20, 30% maybe, if at all. And now we're at like 75 or 78%, 77%. I mean, that to me is a better indicator of growth than the actual numbers. Because church, I would say not just FCC, every church in every country nowadays, the attendance is different. Because the patterns of attendance after post-COVID, right, is no longer the same as before. So like Mark says, it's murky to go by numbers in terms of Sunday attendance in church in person. Because church has taken a totally different dimension and definition in our time. And that's why we are trying very hard to move with it. And that's why we have 2 fully online cell groups in Europe, in Asia, and all. So we are extending quite a lot for a very small church. But for me, the great indicator is when people are able to build deep friendships and to find support within church. And to say that, yes, this is where I come to, when I need to have support, when I can support someone else as well. And I find that mutuality in there. Then I think that our goal towards building deeper is really starting to bear fruit. And I'm so heartened, when I saw that indicator, because that means so much to me. And that goes back to what Mel was saying about, seed and sprout and all that. Because I've seen a lot of these groups, not all of them succeed in the long term, which is fine. We help people find new groups, new configurations, because we're so different. Difficult, not easy to everyone to get along all the time, right? But to actually see real connections and to see these groups growing together, I think that has been just tremendously encouraging to me. So you're not existing just as a cell group just because of the form of cell group, but because you really matter to each other. I think that is what will set the great foundation for us in terms of growth in the years to come.
Yeah, so I think as a board, numbers, I think everybody's looking at it, yes. Okay, I have to say on the board's point of view, KPI, okay, I have to say from a board's point of view, yes, we're looking at it, but one of the struggles we have is, as you say, the numbers dwelling about 70, 80 in person, but because what we cannot track is those online. Okay, how often, we haven't really come up with a matrix to say, okay, if you consider coming at least on service 2 times or 3 times a month, is considered regular, hence you're part of this thing. So it's very hard to justify the part because unless people comment, or I know a few of them, like for example, Jay from Canada, he attends every Sunday. He's definitely there, man. So there are people that consider the overall number that we look at it. But also we look at the quality of the overall, the members, and also the result also show that. So numbers is important. We just need to justify the right matrix at the moment for those online because of our hybrid service. Yep.
I think just to add one point, numbers aside, I think the one thing that the pastors track and the board and council tracks very closely is the number of the cell groups and the health of the cell groups. I think that's one of the key things that is really bi-monthly we are reporting and we are keeping track of. So I think it's really the spirit of the growth rather than just the pure quantitative metrics. Yeah.
We also track the newcomers every month as well. So there are 3 metrics we look at. But actually none of these to me are indicative because the quality of our faith is not determined by the number of us here, but we can grow deeper as well as numerous.
Okay, one last question. Anybody? Sorry, because of the time. Okay.
If we want to track numbers, the past October, our anniversary service was the highest number of new members joining FCC for any given because we take new members in Easter and anniversary, right? The past anniversary we had 13. How many? No, about. I can't remember exactly. It's the highest we have had for a very long time. Yeah.
Anyone have one last question? But it's a good point. We will take note. Last time I used to do that doing welcome. I'm like, okay, this person come for every week or come. This person come once a week. This one come 3 months. Trust me, I remember that. Or you come late, you come at 11, you come at 12. After that, I was like, okay, quiet. Let's talk about that anymore. Okay, anyone last question before we go into the voting part? Okay, so if possible, everybody, can you key into your phone fcc.li/vote. You'll be able to see the voting sheet. From there, you actually can take your vote. So fcc.li/vote, VOTE. Yeah, choose. Vote for Gary, vote for the pass the budget, yes. For members only, yes. By passing the budget, please remember that you are committed to the budget at the same time. No pressure, but really, I've been I was sharing that, I think, how time passes. I've been in the board. I joined the board when I was in my 30s. Now I'm in my 40s. Then I realized I was telling Gary and Jamie back then. I said, I was in the board when you're at your age, and then you're 50s, you're still in the board. I'm like, okay, that's not a good sign, but then yeah. But it's a thing that reminds everybody, is our commitment in our way. When we commit to the budget, it's something that I hope all of us put in the effort on that. So you see this voting sheet, please put your vote. those who are still voting, we'll close the voting at 3:05. So you have another 3 minutes to vote. We have 1 more minute. You have not voted, kindly vote. Thank you, everyone. So the result is out. So based on the vote, everybody actually approved on the number 1, Gary, to extend 2 more years. Congratulations, Gary, wherever you are. Extending 2 more years on the board. Then second, for the budget, everybody approved the budget for 2026. I also really seek everybody's support on together to work together on hitting the budget also. So please share this with those who are cell group leaders. Please share with your cell group members to understand where we are for our 2026 plan. I think it's very important because as cell group become a very important part of our church, please cell group leaders, please share with your cell group members on this. That's number one, and also our budget. So thank you so much, and we will close. Yeah, we will close our. We will invite Pauline to do the closing prayer.
Shall we pray together? God of love, God of life, you are the one who calls us together to be your people. And we are so privileged and grateful to be called your church, that FCC gets to be existent, even in Singapore, but not just existent, but that we get to thrive together. And God, even as we go into the new year, next year, and we think about what rootedness will look like for us, and what it means for us to grow deep and also grow wide, whether it's in numbers, whether especially it's in the quality of relationships. God, I pray that you'll continue to guide us and lead us in the way ahead as we commit ourselves, our plans, our hopes, our joys, our desires, our goals to you, and ask that, God, you will continue to not just strengthen us, but to grant us your vision so that we will walk with you even as we walk each other towards growth and wholeness in Christ. And so we thank you so much for today. We thank you for each and every one who's here, those who join us online, for all the love and support that this church has. And we pray that you honor and you continue to work with all that we are pouring out, and that you'll multiply this so that your kingdom can be extended. And so we thank you for this time and for one another as we pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you so much for spending a very precious Sunday afternoon with us. Please go enjoy the rest of your afternoon and evening, and God bless you.